Hi, everyone. I am Benjamin from English Classes Online. The subject and the predicate are two major parts of an English sentence. However, many people are confused about their exact meaning, their position within the sentence structure, as well as their functions in English sentences. So in today's lessons, we are going to learn what the subject and the predicate mean and how to use them correctly in English speech and writing. So let's get started right away. Well, we are going to begin with a quick look at the agenda for today's episode. As a matter of fact, I like setting agendas for my lessons because one thing that setting agendas does is that it enables you to be sure that you have covered the items or the goals you have set for yourself. So that's what we do. Now we have 4 items on the agenda for today's episode. Number 1, the sentence as a combination of the subject and the predicate. Number 2, what the subject and the predicate mean. Number 3, rules for using the rules for using the predicate. Let's begin with looking at the sentence as a combination of the subject and the predicate. All right. Now, every sentence is a combination of 2 parts. They are the subject and the predicate. Now, if you look closely, you will discover that the subject and the predicate are 2 parts. All right. Now, the subject tells us who or what the subject does or is. And of course, the predicate tells us what the subject does, okay, or is, all right? I mean, what the subject does or who the subject is. That's what the predicate does, okay? Now, if we look at the examples here, you will find that the subject and the predicate have their positions within the sentence structure. Okay? Now, Messi scored the winning goal. Of course, you can see here that the subject is Messi. Messi scored the winning goal. So the subject is Messi and scored the winning goal is the predicate. Another example, he is a brilliant footballer. Okay, so when we look at all these, you will agree with me that, the subject and the predicate are essentially what the sentence is about. And I want us to look at it closely, all right, and be able to analyze what this all mean. Now, the subject Messi is who the sentence is about, okay? And the predicate is the predicate which is called the winning goal is what the subject did. So there are 2 things: who the subject is, who the doer of the action is, and then what he did or does. That the predicate tells us what he does or what he is. So the predicate is about what, and then the subject is basically about who did what. That is exactly what we find in the subject and the predicate. Now take note of the fact that the subject is usually a noun phrase, or a pronoun. The predicate usually begins with a verb. So let's try to identify the subject in the second sentence. Look at the second example. He is a brilliant footballer. First, remember that the subject is who or what the sentence is about. Who or what the sentence is about. So the subject is he. He is a pronoun. Now let's find the predicate. Again, remember that the predicate tells us what the subject does or is. So the predicate is. You find the verb is. It begins, it begins with the verb is, and the entire predicate is a fine footballer. Is a fine footballer tells us what the subject is. Now take note that the predicate begins with the verb is. The subject he plus the predicate is a brilliant footballer make up the sentence. He is a brilliant footballer. All right? So that's the way it is. And when you look at the third, example, let us look at the third example more closely. Again, you will discover that the subject is the boy, and the predicate is broke grammar sports. So when you look at the subject, the boy is a noun phrase. So we have in the three examples, the first example, the subject is a noun, Messi, the name of a person. The second one, he, is a pronoun, a word used to replace a noun in a sentence. In the third example, the subject is the noun phrase, which is a group of words that, does the work of a noun in a sentence. So that is exactly the way it is. And I want us to move further. Okay. Now, let's look at what subject and predicate really mean, okay? We have already looked at this, and then you can see that the subject tells us who or what, who or what the sentence is all about, while the predicate tells us what the subject does or is. So the predicate tells us about the subject, and then the subject tells us who or what the entire sentence is really about. Okay? Now we have looked at the specific examples, and then let's begin to look at the rules for using the subject. The subject is usually a noun. Take note of that. The subject is usually a noun phrase, or a pronoun. Now look at when we use it as a noun. So let's look at the examples here. When we use it as a noun here, Sandra washes her mother's clothes. So here, the subject is Sandra. The subject is Sandra. That's the subject. Then washes her mother's plates, her mother's clothes is the predicate. All right? Sandra washes her mother's clothes. Then we look at noun phrase. When you use a noun phrase, the noun phrase here is the subject, and that is the girl. This is the noun phrase, is the subject. And then the same predicate. Washes her mother's clothes. And then when we use a pronoun, we use the word she, still doing the same job of the subject. And then washes her mother's clothes is the predicate. So you can see that, you know, the subject is usually a noun phrase, or a pronoun. Another thing we want to look, the second rule, is that the subject can be made up of a noun or pronoun and all the words that describe it. You know, the subject can be a noun together with all the words that describe that noun. Let's look at this example. The noun here is woman. And then the entire noun, the entire subject is a noun phrase, and then the subject includes the noun and all the words that describe the noun. The is a determiner. This is a definite article. And it's telling us something about the woman. It's describing the woman. Standing at the gate is also actually what we can call a participle, all right? And of course, this is a participial phrase, if you like. It begins with the present participle, standing, and then standing at the gate. Okay, so this again describes the woman. Which woman are we talking about? The one standing at the gate. And the rule is saying that when we use a noun, then we have to include all the words that describe the noun as part of the subject. That is the rule here. The subject can be made up of a noun or pronoun and all the words that describe it. In this particular subject, the noun is the woman, and all other words merely describe the woman, who the woman is or what type of person she is. So the woman standing at the gate is Sandra's mother. The second example, the armed robbers who killed the chairman. All right. Now, the noun used here is robbers. The determiner D tells us about the robbers. Armed also describes the robbers. Who killed the chairman reveals the identity of the robbers being talked about. The armed robbers who killed the chairman have been arrested. Okay, so let's now look at the rules for, other rules that we need to look at more of the rules for using the subject. And so that brings us to rule number 3. The subject of a sentence can be compound. That means you can have two subjects joined together. An example is James and John are names of the apostles of Christ. So when you look at James and John here, they form the subject in this sentence. And they are one. James is the one first, and then John, you have two. So two subjects joined together by a coordinating conjunction. So they can form the subject. And another example, Balogun and his wife love each other. Chief Balogun and his wife. So Chief Balogun is the first subject. His wife is another subject. Two of them joined together, form one subject. Another one, some important decisions were taken during the meeting. So the same thing, some important decisions. So here, we don't exactly have two separate subjects, but we have actually a situation where the noun is described by other words. This is modifier 1, this is modifier 2, and this is the head word. So it's really not in the same line with the first two examples. Number 4, the subject of a sentence usually comes before the verb. That is another rule we find here. And then the subject comes first here, followed by the verb. Okay, John wrote me a letter recently. Okay. Then the third one, Ronaldo is a great footballer. Again, the subject is coming before the verb here. So that's exactly the way it is. Okay. So let's move on to other rules. And that is rule number 5 for using the subject. When a sentence begins with here or there, the subject comes after the verb. For example, there will be a meeting at 2 p.m. Okay, so here you see that because the sentence begins with there, then the subject comes after the verb. The verb here is will be, that's the verb phrase. There will be a meeting, and the subject now comes, you know, after the verb, not before the verb as it should be. Okay? There will be a meeting at 2 p.m. So the meeting, a meeting is the subject, and it comes after the verb phrase will be. Here is your bag. Again, because the sentence begins with here, the verb comes before the subject, is before the subject. Rule number 6, in a question, the helping verb or part of the verb phrase may come before the subject. Is similar to the other one. Is Mary coming with us? Mary is the verb coming before the subject. When does the class hold? When does the class hold start? So does begins, does, which is a verb, comes before the class starts, all right? So that is exactly what the rule is saying here. So we are now going to look at the rules for using the predicates, okay? Well, we have one more rule for using the subject, and that is number 7. In a command or request, the subject is you, even though it is not stated in the sentence. So when you say sit down, it is you are addressing it as if you are saying you sit down. But normally, when you give a command or make a request, you is always not explicitly stated. So it is implied. Another example is, please give the parcel to Jane. And the meaning is, you give the parcel to Jane. So that's exactly the way to go. And then let's look at the next item, and that is rules for using the predicate. The first rule is that the main word in the predicate is the verb or verb phrase. We already stated it. We hinted at it while stating the rules for the subject. So here, the main word in the predicate is the verb or verb phrase. No, we started it when we were introducing the lesson. Now, George bought his mother a new car. The predicate here is bought his mother a new car. The next one, Eze walked home with his friends. You can see that the first word, let's really look at this. I want you to look at it critically. This is the predicate, the whole of this. Bought his mother a new car. The first word is bought, which is actually a verb. In the second one also, walked home with his friends. The first word is also a verb, walked home. Okay, so that's the way it is. Then rule number 2 for using the predicate usually comes after the subject and includes any word that is not in the subject. For example, the whole class enjoyed the game and the entertainment that followed. Now, the predicate, comes after the subject. I want you to look at it. Now, the whole class is the subject here. Then enjoy the game and the entertainment that followed is the predicate. And this comes after the whole class, which is the subject. So you can see exactly the way it is. Now look at the second one. A big snake ran across the field and was eventually killed by the players. So again, the subject comes first here. A big snake is the subject. And then all other words that come after the subject can be regarded as the predicate. So it is also in the first example. So exactly this is what it is, okay? Now let's move on and look at other rules, okay? For using the predicate, rule number 3, in a question, part of the predicate usually comes before the subject, all right? When you have a question, that's what happens. And for example, why did you reject the gift? Well, I want you to see what happens here. This is not included in what we want to, okay? In a question part, part of the predicate usually comes before, actually this is in order, parts of the predicate, you know? Because if we have to make the subject come first, then we have to begin with you. You did reject his gift. Why? If you have to. But then to put it grammatically, in a grammatically correct manner, which because it is a question, why did you reject the gift? And then this is the subject. And this rule says that in a question, part of the predicate usually comes before the subject. So part of the predicate is why did reject his gift, and then you is the subject. Another example is, have the guests arrived already? Then have is part of the predicate. Both have and arrived already are all part of the predicate. The subject is the guests, and then part of the predicate comes before the subject. That's what this rule is saying. Then rule number 4, adverbs and adverbial phrases may be at the beginning of the sentence, all right? And they are all part of the predicate. So, for example, at the end of the seminar, everyone went home. So this is really similar to the other one. Part of the predicate comes before the subject. But then we are looking at adverbs or adverbials, coming at the beginning of the sentence. Then another example, tonight, the president is departing for London. So if you want the subject to come first, it should sound differently. The president is departing for London tonight. Both of them are correct, okay? So that is exactly the way it is, okay? And then we look at another rule. We have looked at rules number 1 to 4. Now, this is the last rule for using the predicate, and that is that the predicate part of a sentence can be compound. That means with two verbs or two verb phrases. For example, Sandra washes her mother's clothes and cooks the meals. So you can see there are two verbs used in the first example. Then the second example, the wicked boy slapped and kicked his younger sister. You see, slapped and kicked are two verbs that form part of the predicate. And this is exactly where we are going to draw the curtain on today's video. I hope you enjoyed the lesson. If you did, make sure you like the video and share the video with your friends and relations. If you are new to this channel, make sure you subscribe to the channel, all right? Make sure you subscribe to the channel, because by subscribing to the channel, you help us to create more videos and provide more content that will be useful to a lot of people. So if you have not subscribed to the channel, make sure you subscribe right now. And once you subscribe, make sure you click on the bell icon so that whenever I upload a new video, you will be notified instantly. If you check the description section, you will find a free PDF ebook that I have given to you. It's a free gift I have given to you. If you are interested in it, is an ebook on the basic units of English grammar. If you are interested in learning more about English grammar, then you need to click on that link and download that free PDF ebook free of charge. You will find other ebooks there. For example, Good Success in English, a complete study package for complete and effective English learning. And if you are interested in it or any other ebook and other resources there, then you simply click on the link and grab yourself a copy. You might want to visit our website, so you have to visit our website on www.englishclassesonline.com.ng. That is a unique website because this is one website on which you have the amazing opportunities, not only to learn, but also to earn while you learn. So make sure you visit the website. You will also find a lot of free English learning resources that will help you to actualize your dream of achieving proficiency in the use of English. If you have any questions, suggestions, or comments, please leave them in the comments section below. I look forward to seeing you in the next video. Goodbye for now and remain blessed.